Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to follow up on the issue that Senator Graham raised about Guantanamo, and he specifically mentioned the Beatles. On March the 5th, I sent you, the Justice Department, a letter based on discussions that we have been having with families of the Americans who were killed, we think, by the Beatles, one of whom was a constituent of mine, James Foley, also included Stephen Sotloff and Kayla Mueller. And one of the things that we heard very strongly from the families of those Americans murdered by the terrorists, executed really, is that they wanted to see that the people who killed them were brought to justice. And they didn't feel like putting them in Guantanamo where no one would know and other terrorists would not be able to see that they were brought to justice and held accountable for their deeds was an appropriate way to deal with them. So I wonder if today you can tell me if you as the Attorney General and the Justice Department will advocate with this administration that those terrorists be brought to justice either in some international venue or in civilian courts in the United States.
Well, I believe I can say with certainty that they will be brought to justice. There has been a discussion. Senator Graham, for example, believes, and he's studied this for years, he's actually on his military duty, spent time at prisons in Afghanistan and places, so he's an expert, but he thinks the normal and best procedure is for people to be brought to Guantanamo where they're as prisoners of war, that they can be interrogated as normal prisoners of war. They're not provided attorneys and they're not set for trial and don't get discovery of the government. And then if a decision is made to bring them to the United States for trial or tried by military commission in Guantanamo, that's the best approach. I have advocated that with him when I was in the Senate. So that's my general view of it. We have had success trying a lot of these cases in federal court. Even though the rules of evidence are stricter, the discovery rules require the government to produce more evidence, sometimes could tend to reveal how they got caught and our techniques of catching them and our intelligence that way. So, but there's no dispute about these individuals being brought to trial. I have been disappointed, frankly, that the British, they were British citizens, they renounced their citizenship or rejected, had it pulled, but that they are not willing to try the cases, but tend to want to tell us how to try them. So, and they have certain evidence that we need. So it's a complex matter. We are spending a good deal of time on it. I believe you can say with confidence that we expect to have these individuals tried and held accountable for their horrific acts.
Well, thank you. And as you point out, we've been successful in federal court when we brought those terrorist cases before the court. And in fact, we've been more successful in civilian courts than we have in military tribunals. And I would urge you and the administration to take into account the wishes of the families who lost their loved ones because of those terrorists and not provide another opportunity for terrorists to be able to use Guantanamo as a recruiting tool. So I certainly hope you will do that. I would like to change the subject now to, there have been a number of questions here relative to your recusal from issues relating to the 2016 presidential campaign and the work of Special Counselor Mueller. And I do have a couple of general questions that I hope you can answer, despite your recusal from questions regarding the Mueller investigation. Outside of misconduct, dereliction of duty, incapacity, conflict of interest, or other good cause, the conditions outlined in 28 CFR 600, can the Attorney General or his designee fire a special counsel?
Well, let me just say this. I expected somebody would press this, but I am recused from that matter. And there's one matter at stake, and I'm recused from that. So I believe it is not appropriate for me to opine or give my thoughts at this point, given the fact that I'm recused. So I appreciate your inquiry, but I think it is not appropriate for me to comment.
So will you also not comment on whether, in your legal view, the president can fire a special counsel appointed under the same regulation?
I feel the same way about that question.